backed industrial local units, you capture TIF to back some of these projects through the land bank now. I think that was why that was added, because that changed recently.
How about I make a motion to table this until after the Health and Human Services updates?
Support.
That would give Cheryl time to come up. Yeah.
I'll keep communicating.
We would love to put you on the spot, but I don't.
Okay.
That would make sense. It would be good if she was here.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
All right, all in favor of that table, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed, same motion. All right,
Of course, it's Jason in the room. Not that we just moved that.
pardon?
My internet wasn't connecting.
Same.
Yeah.
Anyway,
The audio's not working?
let's
Well,
move
how about
on.
if we take a short recess a minute and?
Isn't she, are you recording though?
They're not hearing it though when they're watching it live. Okay. What do you think, Mr. Chair?
We can take a 10-minute recess, see if we can get that fixed. That'd be good.
All right.
Make a motion to recess?
Or,
All in favor, say aye.
aye.
Aye. Pass, all right.
But yeah,
Did you reboot, Joe? Cause
if you reboot.
Shannon
you
said
gotta
it's fine out there.
Change your password.
Let's go back.
All right,
I did that last week and
looks like we got audio, so we're gonna go back. I'll call the meeting back into.
All right.
Okay. Then we have our reports from Health and Human Service updates, our Veteran Services, Jason Schinkel, Director of Veterans. Welcome, Jason.
Big crowd, loving it. I'll be brief because I know I got Dr. Brashears coming, so I'll save you a little time. I gave everybody a report. We'll start on, first of all, we started a new program called Legacy Link. Our first, basically it's a collaborative effort between our department and our senior living facilities across the county. With our aging veteran population, we have a good amount of folks that are in assisted living, and we thought it would be beneficial for us to travel to them. So our first one was at Waterford Place on Friday. Friday morning, we met. Caleb, our outreach coordinator, did a really nice presentation of what our department does and what resources we provide. Then we went into a little like coffee and donut social gathering, and then we took probably the last 30 minutes to really have one-on-one conversations with any of the veterans or surviving family members that may have had questions. So I think it's a really good outreach effort for us to really get embedded into the community and support our senior veterans or their surviving families. We also had a great breakfast in Coopersville for Veterans Day. It was completely an in-kind donation from the community. We had a really good turnout of veterans and families there as well. So we'll continue to work that northern part of the county. On the report I gave you, on the first page, left-hand side, it says Michigan Veterans Trust Fund. You'll notice that this fiscal year, we've already exceeded last year's emergency funding already through the state. So there is a need. We've noticed going into 26 that there's more people asking for assistance than in previous years. So good thing is it's state money and not ours. So we'll continue to spend it. And then on the last page, it talks about VA spending by county. I'll probably go through this a little bit deeper at a different briefing, but Last year, we discussed the GDX index that comes from the federal government. It talks about our VA spending, our expenditures by state and by county. And they're pretty far behind. We just now got 24's data from the federal VA. But what's unique to look at when we look at the counties, our total spending, which includes compensation and pensions, education benefits, and medical expenditures, whether it's through the VA clinics or it's through Medicare. So when you look at the total, that's the total spending. You'll notice that we've increased from 23 to 24 by 13.4%. And what's unique too is we're beating Muskegon. We used to be, us and Muskegon have virtually the same population, but they were exceeding us in forms of compensation. Now, if you look between 23 and 24, we've now exceeded what Muskegon was doing by a very large percentage at 13.4. Another thing that's unique too is if you look at the total spending between Ottawa and Kent, there's about a $5 million difference between the two, but they're double our population. So we've actually closed the gap between a larger county in comparison to ours through the work that we're doing. So I just thought it'd be important to kind of bring that. Now, next year, 25 will be a great measuring tool because 24 would have been my first year as the department and 25 would be our full first year fully staffed. So 25, comparing 25 to 24 will really be a good comparison for us. But we're doing extremely well. I'm happy with the way things are going, and I think you should be as well. But I'll leave that up to any questions. I don't want to bore you with a bunch of other
Sure.
stats.
In your department, how many employees are we up to at this point?
We're at 5.
We're at 5.
Mhm.
And then what's your estimated total payroll for 2025 and estimated for 2026?
I have to dig into that one, but I think I don't want to give you I think.
Get within 50,000,
Yeah, you're probably talking between 450 to 500,000.
about $500,000.
Yeah.
Allison?
Yeah, just a couple questions. Thanks for presenting. So first question, do you have any idea how many assisted living care homes there are around the county? And how do you have a good list? Like, how are you operating of knowing where to go? When is it by word of mouth? Are you proactively, tapping into them, reaching out? Can you share a little bit more about that?
All of the above. Caleb has actually been communicating with all of the facilities across. I can't give you a total number. I mean, we have some, like American House has several, throughout the county, and Waterford Place is actually owned by a larger corporation as well. So there's quite a few sprinkled out. I mean, almost every community in our county has at least one assisted living. But it's really through outreach. It's word of mouth. Veterans Day, we had a lot of the facilities call us and ask for support if we can come in and speak, or they had luncheons and breakfasts and things of that nature. So by doing that, so some of them have reached out to us for support, and then others have been Caleb really through social media and through emailing have gotten a hold of these other facilities. Yes.
Great. And then are you able to, at another point, not this morning, but maybe break out the VA spending by county a little bit more instead of just a broad number? So you had mentioned compensation, pension, education benefits, medical.
Mhm.
Are you able to maybe break that out a little bit more so that we can kind of see the comparisons a little bit better versus just the percentage there?
Yeah. And I'll share the federal GDX with the board as well. I'll email that out today.
That'd be great.
Yep.
Thanks for all your work.
Yep.
Jason, thanks for being here. I just want to get a clarification. So on the VA spending by county,
Mhm.
can you explain exactly what that is? I know we just heard about the different breakdowns. Is that money that the federal government is contributing to Ottawa County for various VA services? Is that what that represents?
It does. So some of that portion of that money goes directly to the veteran and family. So when we look at compensation, let's say a service-connected disability, or it could be a surviving pension, that money goes directly to the veteran and the family in a form of a compensation payment. Then the next big pen stroke in there is going to be education, and that's the amount of money the federal VA through our post 9/11 GI Bill or our other education programs like VRE, which is vocational rehabilitation. That's the amount of money that comes to veterans that live within our county for education benefits. Now that education benefit can be spent outside the county. It's not all going to like Grand Valley or GRCC. It could be the Central or Western. It could be an online program. It could be a tech program. It could be for, like I said, vocational rehabilitation. So let's say a veteran loses a function of their hands and they're in an administrative role and they can no longer type. The VA will give them funding to go and learn a new skill. So that's a portion of that education. And then lastly, it's medical. So the amount of money the federal VA is spending on medical care. So whether that goes directly to a VA clinic within that supports our area, which would be either Muskegon or Wyoming, or the amount of money that the VA is compensating, say, Medicare for bills that are coming in. So when a veteran has VA health care, VA actually becomes both their provider and their insurance. So if I go to the VA clinic for health care, all those costs are associated with prescriptions and things of that nature. The VA pays directly. If the VA sends me out for community care, let's say they can't provide a service at that clinic, I will go out to community care, let's say chiropractic, and then that chiropractor back bills the VA as if they were insurance. So the amount of the breakdown, and I'll send it out for you too, because the Excel breaks it all down for you as well. But it just shows you the breakdown between how much is going to insurances, how much goes to the VA. So all in total, 15 million is coming to ours. And a big portion of that is compensation and pension.
On the first page of your summary,
Mhm.
we have the federal VA benefits facilitated. How is that different? And what is that exactly would that be in comparison to what you just talked about?
That is the amount of claims that we're doing as an office. So when an individual comes to us asking for us to advocate for them through the claims process, this is how much compensation that we've went and fought for them and got for them. So, and this is by year. So the other 15 million is a continuous, it continues to add on to each other. This is what we've done as an office individually through our claims work.
Great. Thanks.
Yeah, I think, Jason, those are the key factors. If I put Commissioner Bonema's question together with the staffing, increase, so we're at 400,000, whatever it is a year annually. But we're looking for what the increased bang for our buck is. And if I'm following these numbers here, you've got some good data to support a staffing increase because we are bringing in more federal dollars on this last page, the VA spending, to meet the needs of our veterans. And so that's a big difference right there, especially if we're now on par, we're exceeding Muskegon, and we're on par with Grand Rapids, which is twice our size. I think those are good numbers for us to see. And then the last question there from Commissioner Teeples about the direct assistance coming out of our office, being able to compare that to years past when we had a smaller staff. That's the kind of data that we're going to, at least that I'm going to be looking for to say, yes, it makes sense to continue to fund the Veterans Department at such a high level. So there's good stuff in here. I think in maybe a tweaking of the format for presentation, you got a really good case here. So at least that's the way it's looking.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
So on the second page, the VA spending by county, we're looking at fiscal year 23, 24. And on the first page, we're looking at 2025, correct?
Correct.
So, so then we'll be looking, or hoping to even see that number on the second page increase when we see fiscal year 25.
Yes.
Okay, and then is a lot of these increases being facilitated then by your VSO officers? Is that part of the work that they're doing?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
all right.
Yeah, there's, everything that you see on here has a touch point by our office. So
Mhm.
whether it's, if we're doing local county emergent funding, we're doing the application, we do the approval process, and then I'm working through, budget to pay for it. So federal, it's all claims work, it's all power of attorneys, and we have, yeah. So,
Okay.
yep.
This is great. I love seeing it. Because more than the numbers, are the families that you're touching. So, I guess that's one more data point that I would love to see included. And maybe it's on here and I'm just not seeing it. But, when you put those numbers down, I would love to see how many families it is that are represented in those numbers.
Okay.
Because I think the people part really matters too, beyond just the numbers.
So when we look at the Michigan Veterans Trust Fund on page 1 and the Ottawa County Veterans Trust Fund, if you look where it says family members assisted,
Okay,
so we didn't do by case or claim, we did by family member. So
okay,
depending on the household. So, and Dwayne really kind of digs into that quite a bit so that we know, because it's yeah, you're right. It's not always the veteran. It could be some minor children or dependents that are being assisted as well.
yep, great,
Yep.
thank you.
When they connect with you, do they disclose if they have children or not? Is that part of your onboarding with them?
They do, yes.
They do.
Yes. Yeah, and it's important. Yeah.
Well, very good, Jason. Thank you.
Yep,
for
thank
your
you.
report. Thank you for your work.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep. Next, we have the community mental health. Dr. Bouchard.
Good morning.
Morning.
Last night I sent over some documents for your review. I think they'll pop up. I'm going to do a couple of other updates that are not related to the attachments. So CMH department, 220 employees, not all that's in the budget, not all are filled, and $73 million budget. You asked Jason, so I pretty much come up here and make sure you know. So that's the scope of the department. So it's in the 220 are just the positions that we have as directly operated county employees. We also have hundreds of contracts and contract providers. Contract providers, the number of people can be close to 400 people delivering services. So it's quite an extensive enterprise, with the county providing a lot of directly operated services with that workforce. So just thought I'd give you those budgetary numbers. The other thing I'd like to do before I forget, because I'll get into other issues, is this Friday, the CMH department's having a Christmas potluck. So most of our operations will be closed at noon for the rest of that day. And I've been assigned to bring a side, so we'll see how that goes. Last year, we were able to do like a strategic planning meeting and kind of an event at Hope College, but we lost the grant for that. So this year we're potlucking. Staff remain in good spirits. I'm proud to be the CEO of the CMH department. For the employees of CMH, regardless of what's going on at the state level, the county level, within my office, they're keeping their eye on the ball and they're delivering high quality services every single day with the utilization of over 10 evidence-based practices across 3 major population groups, families and children with emotional issues, intellectual and developmental adults and autism, and mental health. And so, as you already know, it's a vital aspect of the community. I invite all of the county commissioners, and I'm willing to send the link if you're not really wanting to search, to view at your leisure all of our finance committees, our program and quality committees of the board, and our full board meeting. In those committees, we do a deep dive into the types of questions that you would have as well. How is the budget formed? How are we dealing with revenue loss? How we're dealing with over expenditures? And I do have a reputation to talk a lot in those meetings, but I think that it's a vital and robust discussion that happens. And I think the county commissioners that sit on the CMH board would agree that we're asking pivotal questions in a detailed way. And we invite the public to watch or come in person. This is the public's community mental health services, and we try to be as transparent as we can of what's going on. So we got the potluck up. I invited you to those meetings if you'd like. In your attachments, I want to look over some access data. I'm just going to highlight some of the highlights. This is for the months of October and November, for it's only 2 months. My next report, I'll have an annual report for all of last year, all of the totals for all of these and the trend line compared to other years. So the first one looks like crisis contacts. Just to remind the county commissioners, CMH, especially if somebody has, well, not especially, if they have Medicaid or they have no insurance, we have to approve every single psychiatric admission to a hospital, regardless if they're an open client of us or not. So any Medicaid recipient in Ottawa County or anybody without insurance shows up at Holland Hospital or Pine Rest or anything like that, we are called in to do an assessment or a crisis contact and look at what level of crisis services have to be provided to them. That's a mental health code mandated function. Regardless of who's managing the Medicaid and what's going on at the state, we will have to continue to do that unless the mental health code changes. And just in a 2-month period, we had 258 crisis contacts just in those 2 months. 67 of them did not result in an inpatient hospitalization. And please note, every contact could result in an inpatient psychiatric admission. That's why we're called to the hospital and other contacts that we have. And so we are diverting a huge amount of people from disruptive services like inpatient hospital to their lives. It's a necessary service, but we're trying to keep people out of the hospital. And as you remember, we use other things like crisis residential or come back to CMH for crisis counseling or stabilization on there. And we have it broken down by age group. Predominantly, it's an adult mental health issue that is getting the number of contacts high. But when we have adolescents and children, it takes a lot more time to sort it out. We try to keep it about 25%, the inpatient kind of rate. So you can see in these 2 months, we're at 33%. And comparing that with last year, it's about the same. Winter months, I don't know what it is, but the number of crisis contacts that we get every month is still significant. And it shows the vital component that we play in the community to assist people in need, regardless of their ability to pay. Now, this does not keep track anybody in like the private insurance system. So I don't have any of those numbers, but I'd love them to see someday like how many people in private insurance get hospitalized versus CMH people, just to see how good of a job we do of diverting versus maybe others that may not do as good a job because they're not meant to do that. So that's what that crisis data is looking at. I'm going to go to two things from there where it says 150 and the numbers. If you could go there, the next page I'm going to miss, so it'll be the page after that. Yes. This is the amount of people in the 2-month process that got past CMH screening. They called, they said, yes, we think that you've met the basic criteria for an assessment. And then of those that are assessed, what percentage of them is eligible for one or more CMH services? And you can see in the 2-month period, we had about 1,000 people contact us, but 150 after referring people to other places or no, we're not the health department, call over there. Once we sort all those out, we had 150 people that met the screening criteria outlined by the state to say, yeah, see if they're eligible for CMH services. And 94% of them were found eligible. I've brought this up before. It very much appears that our our screening process. Once somebody gets past screening and get to assessment, they're pretty much getting into CMH. And so I'm almost done. I said this the last time I was reporting, looking at our screening tools to make sure they're not screening out people that might otherwise be eligible. Because this commission heard in the past, no one gets into CMH. What they might be saying is, boy, it's hard to get past the screening. So I am looking at that. But once you get past that and you're eligible for an assessment, the majority of folks, and even on the last chart, it shows you a trend line on this, get into CMH. And the highest admission rate, believe it or not, is for autism services. The criteria for CMH services for autism services that the state has put out has made a lot of people eligible for autism services. And it's one of the primary drivers of our budget deficit, which I'm going to talk about in a moment, that we can't deny anybody at the front door at community mental health if they meet the eligibility determination. It is an entitlement, not an optional benefit. We cannot base admission into CMH based on our budget. I have no ability to say, well, you know, we have a deficit, close the front door. It's the opposite. In fact, there's no financial incentive for CMH to ever take new clients because our funding is exactly the same, regardless of the number of people we serve, which is bizarre when you think about it. So these stats are to make sure that you're aware of, in terms of the crisis management, which is a primary function of CMH, where we're at, how many we're diverting from hospital, how many are getting into care, and from an access standpoint, how many people are seeking services and getting into CMH services. So I'll take any questions on those two reports. The rest of them are just kind of highlighting some detail on those in that handout.
Okay. So the graph that we've got up right now with 150, 94% accepted, or referred, 6% sent elsewhere. You brought up a very good point that I was contemplating, which is the net not wide enough at that point?
Sure.
And so I appreciate that you're looking into that. I just wonder if there are some outlier cases in the initial search or initial criteria that maybe could have met that criteria. So perhaps a better number is that, 90% are shown
Sure.
as eligible and 10% are deferred elsewhere. I don't know what a national stat is. You're tracking probably more than most people do, but I'd
Correct.
just be interested in that net maybe being a little bit wider to see what happens. So.
And to double on that, wouldn't it be nice if every CMH had comparable data on the same issue so that you know where do we stand, right? Wouldn't it be nice that every CMH had the same exact belief on what eligibility means? It's in writing, right? And it's quite a challenge. But you are right. Is the net too narrow? Now, we have the Navigator program, which, by the way, our millage dollars funds, that when people are found not eligible, we stay with them until something is found. Navigation to us isn't put them on the boat, push them out and go, good luck. We're in the boat till they arrive to the new destination, are securely linked to the referral source. With Ottawa County is very blessed with many organizations that will help. And so our Navigator program is helping people get connected to services that we may not be able to provide because of eligibility criteria.
Michael, I think that's a great, as we approach the millage renewal this summer, that's a great thing to
Yep.
comment on and to plug. And I like your analogy. We're navigating, we're not just sending them out in a boat and saying,
Yeah, we're not-
sorry,
good
you
luck.
meet it, good luck.
Did you make it?
We're staying with our citizens until they
Yeah.
find the help they need. So that's all my questions. Thank you.
Any other questions on this?
So Dr. Bashir is, we all agree that Ottawa County is incredibly blessed by the CMH program that you lead. It's amazing. But we are looking at that deficit this year.
You bet.
It's 1.5, 3 million. Looks like, if I'm reading this correctly, we're looking at potentially 5 million next year.
Right.
Where do we stand on getting that covered to the LREs?
Yeah, so I'll walk through that if you don't mind. And I won't read the document verbatim, but it answers that question.
Okay.
So first of all, I want to let you know There are certain things in our budget that I believe are in operational control and you must manage as a department, okay? That's our staffing, vacant positions, the like, things that we control that have nothing to do with someone coming into service and we need to provide that service with a contract provider, right? To answer your first question, the regional entities anticipated to cover the majority, if not all, of our last year's deficit.
Last year's or this year?
2025, that's what this is.
25, okay.
2026, we are already projecting a decrease in Medicaid revenue of close to 4% or 2.4 million. In fact, our fiscal service and I got a nice little November surprise from the Lakeshore Regional Entity when they said, gee, looking at the number of people enrolled in Ottawa County, we have to look at your 2026 Medicaid revenue projections. And of course, Karen and I and Myra and others, by the way, Myra that's been stepping in for Amy from Fiscal Services, amazing job. I'm very thankful that Karen has released her second in charge to help us, and I know you want her back eventually. But in terms of the overall nature of the deficit, it has three components. It has a decrease in Medicaid revenue, which I'm fighting to get more revenue for Ottawa County through the region and the state. It has over expenditures that are related to contractual services. And we got processes in place to try to do utilization management tools and help decrease that. And the third one is advocacy about the need to move CMH funding from total number of Medicaid lives to the need of the people that you serve. And there are financial models like that are used in other CMH systems across the state. And our own region had that methodology over 10 years ago.
What do you mean by that?
That our budget should be based on the needs of the Medicaid recipients and how much it costs versus you get a budget based on the total number of Medicaid lives that are in Ottawa County. We serve the same 8% of the Medicaid population that every other county does. It's roughly 8 to 10%. But if your county's Medicaid isn't shrinking, then you're like, okay, I can deal with increases in that percentage, so I'm getting paid or not. We're in the situation where our Medicaid dollars are shrinking because we have less enrollees on Medicaid in Ottawa than other counties. And so the amount of money we have to fund the 8% is shrinking, even though the needs and the cost of the 8% are still there. So I've been working on this for quite a while and saying, what does our 8% look like? And if you've watched any of the CMH Finance Committee meetings and board, I'm saying, here's our true cost of care, how much we're actually spending, and we're advocating and working with the regional entity to change the way the Medicaid is dispersed in our region. There are some CMHs in our region that had a surplus last year, only one, right? And us in Kent County had a deficit. The rest were just about equal. And we were the only county in 2025 that even with increased revenue coming in, because we got some more revenue pushed in, we still had a decrease in our overall Medicaid revenue because the number of people we had on Medicaid shrunk. So here's my approach of dealing with the deficit, because that's what you want to know. How are we going to deal with this? What's going on?
Can I ask you a question before you?
Yeah.
So does that mean we're providing services in Ottawa County that other counties are not? That we're providing these extra steps that puts us into a needs-based rather than a per diem-based assessment?
No, it's close. It means that the services that we are providing are identical to other CMHs, but our overall Medicaid resources by person is less. And so we're asked to do more with less because of the funding model. If the funding model, Chairman Teeples, was based like it is in some other regions, they would say, gee, who is Ottawa County serving? What's their level of care or level of severity? How much does it cost to serve them? Is that a reasonable cost? And then we're going to make sure within that region, the Medicaid reflects those needs. Ottawa County has a lot of folks in residential because we have some large residential providers in our county, Benjamin's Hope, Harbor House Ministries, and the like. And so we have, that is one of the reasons people move to Ottawa County is to get specialized residential services or other services for developmental disability. And once they establish residency, We're the county of financial responsibility. So the way to look at it is needs-based means acknowledge the true cost and needs of the people that you're serving and manage the Medicaid dollars based on that versus you have 100,000 people on Medicaid. You better hope 11% doesn't show up, right? So we're moving towards fighting for a needs-based model, which this region used to have. So it's not like it's a foreign concept that Dr. Brashears is making up to try to address a budget issue. This is a sound and true methodology in funding Medicaid services within our county. And it's going to be vital over the next couple of years that we push and advocate for that. Because the number of Medicaid lives due to changes at the federal level or people not needing assistance as much anymore is going to mean we're going to have less overall dollars. Of that 73 million, 91% of that or 90% of that is Medicaid. So that's what we're talking about here. But last year, in dealing with the budget deficit, things that we could control, $1.1 million in decrease in expenditures in what we could control. That was positions we didn't fill, close to $700,000. Reduction in other administrative and contract services that we use just to run the stuff, close to $430,000. And we did, and the CMH county commissioners that are here know this, we did a comprehensive study of our complete residential system, our highest cost service, and developed a utilization management strategy to help streamline the cost and have consistency. We had a public comment, like what is the CMH level of care comment? I took that seriously, I think she's in here, and I made sure I developed a system and articulated it to the public. Here's our level of care system, here's how we did it. So the regional entity has that internal service fund that we believe will cover last year's this deficit, unless we believe that. And this year's deficit, depending where we end up at the year, there is money in the internal service fund at the region to deal with that. The problem we're having, and Karen can attest to this, we never know what our revenue actually is. Throughout the year, we get revenue projections and we're asked to make adjustments to the budget based on a moving target. And even at the end of the year, they go, well, it ended up being this. Well, you wouldn't run your family house this way. How much revenue do you have? So that's why there's an at-risk pool, like the region shares the risk with the state to help deal with unanticipated increases in utilization and the costs that are associated with them. So I give you this budget analysis because anytime I give something comprehensive like this to the CMH board, and I'm due to come here, I'm just going to give you everything I've given them. But if you want to hear a detailed discussion of this as well, you can go back and look at you shouldn't have to, but you can, the finance committee where we reviewed this stuff at length.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Yep.
Okay, I just want to follow up on a few things. So one is, there was a time when people were definitely moving to Ottawa County for our residential services and quality of CMH care. Can you explain when somebody moves here for residential services, what kind of a bump up in our CMH budget might that bring?
Oh, that's a great question. So what has to happen first is you have to move from somewhere else. Sometimes we've had it from other states to Ottawa County and send up an independent address. So you couldn't move from like one group home in another county to ours and then we have to pay for it. They have to establish an independent residency in Ottawa County. Once that's done and they apply for Medicaid, the Medicaid goes through, it's number 70 in the Medicaid stuff, Ottawa County. We say this is an Ottawa County Medicaid recipient. They are then eligible for our CMH services to the full array of services. If one needs specialized residential services, it could be as much as $80,000 a year to $1 million a year per person based on the level of support they need. Do they need one-on-one staff around the clock? The $1 million is very rare. I'm just saying it can get up pretty quick. And so what we did is an analysis of that, but just 10 new clients a year could put your budget millions of dollars in deficits in that scenario. And there's nothing we can do about it if they establish an Ottawa County residency that's independent of a dependent setting, like a nursing home or a specialized residential. And that is exactly what happened. And Chairman Teeples, get back to you, like, is it the same 8%? This has happened over the years, and so that expenditure is fixed for these folks. And guess what else is happening? This is a good thing. They're living longer. Folks with complex disabilities haven't lived longer than this time in history. And so we are having people that are 50, 60, 70 that have had fixed costs in our system for years. And if you don't base the Medicaid revenue based on that cost, right, this is the problem. But it's a potential, and you see it, $100,000, $300,000, just depending on the level of support one needs in these homes. And it's not just residential, it's any service, autism. People move to Ottawa County. Why? It's a great place to live. They establish residency. They go, oh, I have an autistic child. I'm eligible for Medicaid. We get them. We are one of the fastest growing counties in the state, and we're growing in all demographics. And so we have, and if, so I hope that answers your question, but just 5 or 6 placements could throw your budget to anywhere between $500,000 to $1 million off.
Yeah, and so our Medicaid demographic, or, if you would to break down, our people who are on Medicaid may look far different than the demographics, however you would break that down in another county.
They do.
And so that's where it's really important that somehow we get the state to switch to a needs-based model instead of the current one, because it completely doesn't work for our county. So I know I keep asking you this, but I'm really hoping our lobbyist is on top of that.
They are.
There's so much changing in CMH right now on the state level and all the other things, but until we get that fixed, this is just going to keep being a problem for us, and maybe more so for us than some other counties, but it's a real problem.
Our friends in Kent County are experiencing the same thing.
Mhm.
And they're larger than us, but their deficit ended up last year, 2025, being 18 million. Right? And so you look at it in terms of size, they could lay off, we too, by the way, every single employee that we have out of the 200, whatever, and we wouldn't make up the $5 million issue. Right? So it's a systemic issue based on revenue and the benefit. One of the things I've been doing, which doesn't make me too popular, is to look at what's in the benefit. Are we offering too much? Like, how rich is the Medicaid benefit? We have different services we offer in Michigan that other states don't have. And I don't necessarily want to go backwards, but fund it. And so I've been very active in those circles and having those discussions. And what I found out from the state is the state's okay with different regions having different ways they distribute the Medicaid in that region. They're okay with the region going to a needs base. In fact, Region 10 does that. Gee, they're the only ones not in a deficit. So as I've been in this job 1 year and 4 months, I'm learning more and more and more about the state of public mental health and Ottawa's unique challenges. At the end of the day, the region is sharing the risk with us with the deficit, but we have to keep tightening our belts, fighting the challenges, getting a different revenue perspective. And by the way, all of those fights happen if you're a county department or authority. It's the same exact issue. Doesn't change a thing on that issue.
I just want to note one more thing, and then I'll be done. But and that is our hospitalization number. So another big expense. So we had 85 people who were hospitalized, about 250 people in crisis. I guess I just want to note that if we're not there to meet that need, how bad that would be. And that, that then bleeds over into family services. It bleeds
Sure
over
does.
into
Every single,
criminal. So
the jail, all of it.
Yeah.
right? And just to remind everybody, the average cost of inpatient hospitalization is $1,200 a day with an average stay, depending on age group, between 3 and 15 days, depending on the situation. So just do the math, 85 times $1,200 a day times 10. That alone, if you have a spike in inpatient hospitalization, can send your budget in a disarray and if you don't do it, put pressure on Veteran Services, Health Department, the jail. If we weren't intervening, these folks would be going to the jail. They're picked up somewhere. They go there. You talk to the sheriff, he already feels like he has a mental health department. We're working closely with them. And it's a vital component. I view ourselves as like the fire department like that,
Yeah.
but it's expensive.
Yep. And so I just wanted to make a note of like the number of families that is so critical for. So that's all.
So other updates. As we speak right now, there's testimony happening in Grand Rapids on a lawsuit from the CMH system to the Michigan Department versus the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services to restructure how the Medicaid system is managed above us. At issue is, what is the role of CMH if the state changes who manages the Medicaid dollars, the number of these regional entities? Right now, we belong to the Lakeshore Regional Entity with 4 other partners. The state's proposal is to go to super regions, where we would be managed by an entity that's managing close to 33 CMHs in 44 counties. So the judge is hearing arguments to make a determination if the state can move forward in their restructuring plan. They were supposed to conclude this by today and have a decision tomorrow. I've been watching the proceedings, and it looks like they're going to actually do this tomorrow as well and have a decision on Monday. This has a dramatic impact on the role and function of CMH in the state. But we should have a good idea what's going to be allowed. I keep saying this, by this date, right? More by Monday. It's my belief that the regional entity structure will be reduced by numbers from, say, 10 to, say, 3, and we'd be in a super region. What's at issue is, what's the relationship between CMH and that entity? Right now, all of our over expenditures, the majority of them, are based on contracts that we manage for the provider network. If the state gets their way, we will not be in the contract negotiation business or managing any of those contracts. So almost our entire client care line, which is the primary line that's over budget, would be managed by somebody else. And we would just be a provider to provide some of those services instead of managing it. And I intend on Friday morning, in part of my Did You Know series, to go over this again for the public. You're all welcome to join in. It's 10 this week instead of 12 because of the potluck. And I do record those, and I've talked extensively. I've had 4 public meetings and published several documents on the impact or the potential impact of this PHP restructuring to us. So that's happening as we speak right now, and I will keep everybody up to date on that. At this point, I'll take any questions related to community mental health.
I just have one to go back to. You mentioned that Region 10 is needs-based and not in a deficit.
Correct.
And I thought that this was a statewide thing. And so then when you shared that, it's based on region?
Each region has the ability, each of these regional entities has the ability to define how they're going to distribute the Medicaid dollars for that region. Even though the state's using a strict PM model, how many people you have in the region, when the money comes to the region from the state, they can distribute it any way they want with the agreement with all the partners. And that's what I'm facing. Instead of trying to change the state of Michigan at this moment, it's changed what's in the region. And it's an uphill battle because all of the regional partners have to agree, right?
But to follow up on that, even if we did that, so we do need to do that in our
Yeah.
region, but our region is not getting enough money.
That's
because
correct.
Kent County is 18, whatever.
That's correct.
million
We're not either.
Too, so.
Yeah. So, you know, What's in my control? I'm playing like 4-dimensional chess. I'm working with the state, I'm working with the region, with the county, right? Trying to figure this out. The bottom line is that we don't have enough Medicaid revenue to meet the expectations that we've been given. And it's one of the reasons the state wants to reshuffle the whole deck. All right, let's start over. Because when you have 10 regional entities and 9 of them are in deficit, hundreds of millions in dollars in deficit, you can't say, well, 9 are mismanaged and 1 isn't when you're the partner at the state. So one of the ways you deal with that, and they did it in 2013 when they reduced the number of regions from 18 to 10, is reshuffle it, get all the Medicaid back up, let's start over. And it's my job to make sure the services in Ottawa County are delivered in the highest quality way, and we have enough resources to do it. And so right now, the regional entity is helping us with the risk of this, but it's not something that can continue forever. Sooner or later, someone runs out of money to pay for this. My staff asked me yesterday, one of my leadership, what happens if you can't pay the deficit? Okay, well, if you can't pay it and there's no other funding sources, since we're in an agreement on Medicaid with the state can say, all right, we acknowledge this. They don't make you write a check from some other local source that you don't have. They put you on a payment plan. They look at ways to kind of make that up. They see if they can move other money. So there's not an immediate cliff you fall off of under the shared risk model. You know, they may say, well, the county, you have to pay it. Well, we'll see about that, right? And we've heard discussions on that. But the reality is that you have to manage this deficit in a manner that's difficult because you're not able to control the limitation of services or expenditures besides the things we can control. And we are. We're not filling every vacant position, right? And so do I need them? You bet I need them. But what can I control? That. So it's not just that. There are other levers that we're doing you can read about.
Any other, Doug?
Yeah, sure. Michael, how you doing?
Good, great.
And hey, just trying to help me flesh out a sentence here and just kind of a thought. I think it's the second paragraph in your analysis where it says, in addition, CMHOC does not currently have a report that
Yes.
ties service authorizations with projected expenses. So
Correct.
the way I read that, we have authorizations, but we don't know how much that's going to cost us.
That's right. And so.
So that's
we're
a problem, right? I assume.
Yes. And no CMH has this report that seems basic in elementary
There's no CMH in Michigan that
has this
that
report.
knows how much the
Right.
authorizations are going to cost them.
Yes, because of the hundreds of thousands of service codes. Now, Commissioner, we will solve that. We already are working on that right now. We have a group working with fiscal and myself to create such a report with the benefit of our new electronic medical record that we put in last year. You are correct to look dumbfounded on, you mean you don't know how many services you authorize and how much that could potentially cost you? The answer is,
for sure.
the answer is kind of we know, but I want to know now. Why? Because I want to know not only that, how many services that are authorized and the projected expenditures associated with that. I want to know how many are actually utilized, and are people actually going to utilize what's been authorized, and the difference between that. Because if you authorize 10 services and someone uses 7, from an expenditure forecasting, how do I handle that? Do I assume they're going to use all 10? Well, quarterly, we need to ask the question, do they still need those extra units? And we're doing that now. So we'll get there, because right now our financials are based on what's been paid out, not what's been authorized.
So our budget is not based on authorizations.
Not
That would
totally,
make-
no. Well, our budget is based on projections. Our year-end actual results are based on what was actually spent. And so through the year, we're like, how's our spending going? And I want to make sure we know, like, yeah, our spending's fine, but we have like $1 million out there of authorized expenditures that we have to see, are they going to be used or not, and put that in the budget plan. And we haven't really been able to do that until we've put in our new EMR record that tracks our service activity in a different way. And that we got that started in June. It was the first thing I did was put that in. is a new EMR to track service utilization. So we are very close on having the report. I already have a draft model of it. I'll have one within the next 30 days that can do this, and we'll share it with our other partners.
Just in the second question, on your second page here, the last paragraph, and you've kind of talked about this before in a kind of a larger setting, about the inability to deny services.
Yes.
So, but does that imply that there's no cost savings available to us in those, in provision of services? Because it seems as when you've talked about this in the past, you seem to say we not able to deny services, and therefore we have no control over the cost of those services, which
Right.
I don't think is true because you have
Yeah.
six bullet points of utilization management above that.
Yes.
So can you help me kind of square those two?
Yeah. So in addition to the utilization management controls we're putting in, that's going to look at, Commissioner, how much we authorize in terms of the amount, scope, and duration of those services. So you are right. I have been saying, if you look at it from one perspective, conflicting messages like, we can't stop it. People are coming in. Oh my goodness, we're going to lose our shirts. And one of the ways you deal with a front door that you can't close is how much is everybody getting? How many units are being authorized? And are we consistent? And those are related to those bullet points above. Right now, it's my belief that we have work to do to strengthen precision and equality in the number of services people get authorized for. And of course, they go up and down based on their need. And that's the movement I'm doing. Are we sure that someone needs, I'm going to make up a number, 10 of these versus 8? And what's everybody else getting that are similar kind of case presentation? Are they getting 8 or 10? And so the process is to look at how are we authorizing the amount of services. The front door issues, I can't stop people from coming in.
All right. I mean, because if I look at the 8 bullet points, it just seems like the first two,
Yeah.
that's $1 million, but the 3 through 8 is where
Yep.
the real savings lies, right?
Yes.
But we haven't really seen any, and I'm sorry if I haven't watched every finance
Yeah.
committee meeting, but these committees that you've been setting up, what is the fruit of that work been?
Yeah, it's definitely led to savings. It's definitely led to understanding how we're authorizing those services. Like in the specialized residential side of things, we didn't even have a consistent level of care system. We didn't have to say, okay, if you need this much, what's that level called and what are we going to pay for that, and work with your providers. And so we're going to see the benefits of this quarter and next quarter. It took a year for me to stand up some of these activities, understanding what the problem is and then addressing it.
Right.
And this is the management part of this, the utilization management part of this that we're working on. And you'll be able to see direct correlations between that work and at least having the system understandable in terms of expenditures and then cost savings. Now, the cost savings for those specific things may happen, but your overall expenditures may go up because the amount of people coming in is still high.
Right, and I think you talked about that in the first paragraph.
Yeah.
Where we see in inpatient hospitalization, autism services, but we don't have year-over-years on those.
Right.
Nor do we know like volume versus cost of,
Yeah, some of that data I'm creating, they weren't present before.
okay, all right, so, but I appreciate that because I've heard you say inability to deny services.
Yeah.
But that can't just mean that we have no control of our costs.
Yeah, that doesn't mean don't manage. It's
Okay.
just a validation that in other industries, when your expenditures are too high, you stop doing certain things.
Right,
We don't have that ability.
right, but we can't control levels of
Right.
cost within. those.
Yes. And I'm depending on the regional entity to provide guidance on how much we should be authorizing when somebody's authorized, because it's actually the regional entity's job. They just delegate that to us to do as a CMH. And it's one of the things that the states in their plan would be like, no, don't keep it at the CMH level. Have this big region try to do those things. And to me, that would be disastrous because they don't know the local client, they don't know our clients, and they don't know the local provider network. So you are right. It's controlling the amount, scope, and duration, or how much we authorize the tools. The other is just a statement to say, you know what, there are certain things we have to approve everybody coming in the door that meets the eligibility criteria. The private sector doesn't have to do that at all. They can literally say, sorry, there are no providers right now.
Mhm.
There's no mandate that they must provide the service. Sorry, we don't have any availability. Yeah, you may have a benefit, but it's not an entitlement.
Right.
And so the public system, we're faced with, got to do it. And I'm glad we have that, because if we don't do it, oh, heck will break loose, to be honest with you. In the private sector, which I was a part of for a long time, you can pick and choose your clients. You can literally say, you don't show up once or twice, I'm kicking you out because I'm not getting reimbursed for you. And you have no commitment to treat the population regardless of their funding source. And it's a huge fundamental issue. I'm a conservative by nature, I will tell you this, but our private behavioral health system is broken. You think the CMH system is broken? That is broken for many reasons that at a later point, if you'd like to have me pontificate, I can go through all the reasons of that. But it adds pressure to us. We are the place that people go when they don't know how to serve somebody, when they've given up. That's who we're serving. And, we do it with honor, and it costs a lot of money. It's $6 billion now in the state. The behavioral public mental health system's up to $6 billion.
Michael, thank you for your report.
Yeah.
I just want to add 2 data points. I'll be quick.
Sorry, Phil, I'm trying.
Oh, this is the last data point.
Right, right. I just think it would be helpful for you guys in dealing with all of this too. One is, I think it's important to know that our residential care payment system was broken. We did not have appropriate rates. We were at risk of losing and having some of our residential homes closed down
Mhm.
because they were losing money, millions of dollars, and having to go out and recruit it because we were not paying high enough. So I think that that's important to know, that that's also been a piece of this. The other thing is that autism rates have been increasing as exponentially. Like if you look at the scale, it's been going like this. And so those are 2 external factors to just keep in mind as we consider what's going on here.
Absolutely. Very good.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for your information. Josh, would you like to take that off the table now?
Yeah. I need to make a motion to put it back on the table? I would
I
like,
think we made a motion to move it to right after Health
Yeah.
and Human Services update. So I think
actually, we can go right ahead because I said right after Health and Human Services.
Yeah.
And it is, so
All right, here we go.
you don't even need me. I'll go back with that.
Hi, sorry, I apologize for not being here earlier. Forgot that it was going to be on this agenda. So you had some questions?
if you could just walk us through, Cheryl, the changes, if we could just kind of go through it in a little bit of explanation. Obviously, we can read and we can go through this, but it'd be nice to have a little bit of your thought process of some of the changes that are being proposed.
Okay. So on page 4, we made the change of adding the support of local government-backed industrial development projects where the use of land bank authority facilitates eligibility for public or private financing, such as brownfield incentives. So the ability of the land bank and what they can do has changed over the years. And we are now able to take in land and help them with facilitating private or public financing. So that's why we added this bullet point. Just an example is we have a project coming up where the land is commercial property, but it does not have sewer or water or anything like that. So we're able to take that land. We're discussing whether or not to take that land into the land bank so that they can help get some financing for running those kinds of utilities to that property.
That's not a cost that is typically covered, right? Land, using TIF for infrastructure. So
Right.
by putting it in the land bank, that opens up that as an eligible cost.
Yes, correct. Thank you. Page 12, I believe, is the next change, and this change was made by our corporate counsel. Just verifying that all transfers that that the director refuses to approve or that are outside the director's authority to approve are still required by board approval. And then we updated the title of B, transfers that the director alone may approve. Page 13. This goes along with the other bullet point where we can take in the property, temporary ownership, title, or lien on that property to help with TIF. Page 14, change the heading for B, just adding process and removing requirements. I think that was it.
Is there any discussion, Cheryl, with the Land Bank Authority? Anything that, was this a full support of the changes?
Yes.
Anything extra that you'd want to add in discussion of it, or satisfactory with how the changes were made?
Yes, I'm happy with the changes that were made. Yeah, thank you. I forgot, we also added, there wasn't a signature page on the last copy, so we added that to it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, Cheryl, you can't leave yet. I mean, mine's more of a comment. And
Okay.
I think if I were to sum this up, would this be accurate? The changes that you're making or proposing that we adopt will make it easier for development to take place
Correct.
and for
Mhm.
construction of, in this case, the example you gave, potentially housing units to be less costly.
Correct. Housing units. The example that I gave is actually commercial, so they're planning on building a huge building
Okay.
for industrial or
In
whatever.
this case,
Yeah.
maybe not commercial, but it's
Right.
going to lower the cost.
It will lower
to
the cost for them and bring in more workers,
Yep.
more employees
Yes.
into the county. And
The positive for economic
Right.
development.
Correct.
That
Thank you.
was the message I wanted to get out there.
Yes, thank you.
Good. Any other questions, comments? Just roll call or all in favor, should be saying aye?
Aye.
Opposed, the same? Motion carried. Move on to committee reports. Clerk Register of Deeds, 2024 annual report. Mr. Roebuck.
Guys, thank you for having me this morning.
Thanks for being here.
It's a 58-page report, so I sent it over to Virginia. It said 5 minutes a slide. That's 290 minutes. She just asked me to cut it by 280 minutes, so.
Or to order lunch.
Yeah, exactly. I'll try to just do a real brief overview, and then obviously happy to answer any questions that you guys have on this. One of the challenges that we've had is it's December, and it's funny because as we're preparing for this and using all the data, I'm like, this was 2 years ago, and our team is in the planning stages for 2026, and it's been a busy couple of months, even just getting ready for that. And so just to kind of keep us all focused, I actually have this, and I'm just gonna just remind you that we're in 2024. And I don't know if you need these, Andrew, but I'll leave these up here for you. So.
Just in case.
Start out with probably the most important slide that we have. I know this worked earlier. Maybe the first one, and then let me see if I can flip it now. Okay, yeah. Our people. And I just want to highlight, something that I think Commissioner Rhodey had mentioned a couple of times. It's about families and it's about people, and we are a people organization, and we cannot do anything that we do without the individuals that you see represented on this organizational chart. So we have 42 staff members in 2024, all very critical and central to the role that we play in the community, and we're really proud of our team. Our mission is simple. It is to help people and encourage their trust in government, and we really take that seriously and really want that mission to be the lens through which we make our decisions. And so oftentimes when we as a leadership team are meeting, we're talking about, does this align with that simple phrase? Does this align with helping our customers and encouraging their trust in what we do? Our values are also really critical. I'll talk about that in just a minute. But as our culture, we really consistently try to highlight those values and behaviors. Just really briefly, some of the goals that we had coming into 2024 that were really critical to accomplishing. Early voting goes without saying. That was one of the biggest lifts that we have done, and just was an incredibly successful process. I cannot stand up here today and say anything in terms of taking credit for that without acknowledging so many of our partners, partners in the room, Karen and Fiscal Services, our IT department, our HR department, our sheriff's office, our facilities. Just an incredible lift from our staff as well, and ultimately represented a whole lot of success in terms of what we were able to accomplish, setting up standards, training, onboarding hundreds of workers that are going to be utilized in the future as well. Another big accomplishment was a successful implementation of a case management system. I mean, this is a years-long process in the making, millions and millions of data points in our case records dating back, ultimately dating back over 100 years, but you know, the primary cases that we have are in the 20-year range, and that's, you know, literally millions of documents in that system. And again, our partners in the court and our IT department could not have been possible without that. And a standardized state system is going to move us forward significantly with that implementation. Another big move that we did was the physical move into the Family Justice Center. And the heart of the Family Justice Center project is really to unite families under one roof within the court system, whether, you know, that's looking at our domestic cases, our adoption cases, juvenile abuse, neglect, all of those things that concern our families. But what that represented for our office was a combination of two really critical teams. Our family court team and our domestic court records team are now together, and we're working under the same roof and accomplish some cross-training in the process, so we'll really help our customers as well. Part of our priority as an organization is to highlight a culture of service, and that's something that we take really seriously and that we have fun with. So every year we have quarterly charity organizations that we help with. In 2024, we chose Helen DeVos Children's Hospital and the Gateway Mission as two of our primary charities. As a father of a 7-year-old son, I'm very grateful for Helen DeVos Children's Hospital. I think they do amazing work in our community. We have participated in Community Action Day with the West Coast Chamber for a number of years as well. It's just a great opportunity for our staff to connect and serve in the community. Sorry, I don't know, a little stiff. Our clerk's office budget. So this is one of two main budgets we have. There's a lot of budgets that fall underneath the clerk's office budget: elections, jury board, board of canvassers, our vital records, and our court records are the primary. But those are the numbers there. On the vital records division, 2,181 births in Ottawa County. That represents a 1% increase for us. This is always a fan favorite. Our top baby names, there's a whole lot of ties this year. Yeah. So Theodore, Noah, and Amelia. I had no idea August or Brooks were girl names, by the way, but they are. Deaths are down, births are up. I mean, can't get more positive than that. So I just want to rest on that. I guess they were in 2024. Sorry, I got to focus on, this is 24. Our CPL numbers for 2024, this represents a relatively steady number. You see here the new versus renewal CPLs, about 2,800 renewals total and 1,700 new. And we do see this steady increase year over year of about 1,000 new CPLs per year. And so we have this You know, as our renewals increase, our new are really not coming down significantly. New CPLs are required to be in person, but 80% of all of these renewals are completed online. And so that's a convenience for our customers. Our honor rewards program, not going to spend a ton of time on this other than to say this is one of the very few unmandated services that we have offered. Really, we started this prior to the expansion of our veteran services. And Jason and his team are just doing a phenomenal job, and we want to be able to support them in whatever ways that we can. But this program is really a means of encouraging veterans to record their discharge paperwork with our office in lieu of a completely free program where we have a little over 400 businesses in Ottawa County that offer discounts to them. And we love our veterans and love being able to participate in that way. On the Register of Deeds side, we are consistently, oh, sorry.
I don't mean to interrupt, but on that last slide there, you talked about discounts. Do we offer a discount for the concealed pistol licenses to veterans?
So we do not. So those are statutory fees. And we have had a couple of conversations about that as well. So the mandated fees that we charge, we can't do much about. But there are a couple of ways that I would like to explore. There's actually some legislation that would allow us to be a little bit more flexible in that as well. And I would be supportive of that.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's a great question, Commissioner. Revenue in the Registry of Deeds office continues to be a revenue generator, even despite some of the decrease in terms of the number of documents that we have recorded over the past couple of years. I'll get to that in just a minute. But we're looking at, the vast majority of the funds that we receive are state transfer tax that gets transferred to the state for the sale of property in Ottawa County. But a good chunk of that also comes to the county's general fund, a little over $3 million total coming into the general fund on that. One thing just to quickly highlight so that you're aware, we have bulk image sales here, which used to represent roughly anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000 in revenue for us. And that was due to one national entity, American Title, purchasing our bulk images. And they, in mid-2024, decided not to do that any longer. So title company, we obviously don't control whether they buy our bulk images or not. But one of the ways that we have looked at continuing to generate the revenue to the general fund that we feel we need to preserve our documents is we've taken a little bit of a different approach, and you approved a different funding model for our Register of Deeds search platform, where essentially our local users, our title companies here locally, townships and cities that use our land search process, we want to keep them on a budget-friendly model. But if we have large national entities that are spending hours and hours and hours of searching our documents and accessing our documents for the purpose of generating their revenue, we wanted to look at a different model for how we charged for that. And so in 2025's annual report, I think you're going to see an increase in that revenue to offset some of the bulk image sales there. Free online search continues to generate revenue to the general fund as well. And this is just a free search of our Register of Deeds index, where essentially folks can purchase the document by statutory fee that they are looking at on the screen, if that makes sense. Passports is the other area that we do not, it's non-mandated service. But this is something that we provide a little bit over of $32,000 annually in revenue to the general fund, but also just a great customer service. And it's worked out really well. It's convenient for folks here, and we enjoy being able to do that. On the circuit court record side, how am I doing, Regina? Okay, I have the timing down. Okay, keep it going, sorry. Funds receipted, 33.4 million in funds receipted. So basically our office is the intake point for all funds that come into the circuit court in Ottawa County, whether that's restitution, state fines and costs, bonds, orders of filing. A lot of receipting is done by our staff. Cases filed, we're holding steady at about 4,500 total cases this year, 131,000 individual documents filed. In this, we have kind of seen a steady uptick in the number of documents filed. I think as the courts have talked about, our population is growing, services that our courts are providing, this is directly tied and related to that. One of the things as we navigate our digital world and the digital to paper world that we're dealing with, one of my top priorities moving forward in the next few years is to focus on how we can streamline and ensure that our documents are kept in that digital world. Right now, we are scanning every single document that we have, and we store that digitally, and under the state's law and Supreme Court rules, that is the official file. We also have a court that enjoys the paper file, and we respect the decision of our court and our chief judge in that way. But this is a significant cost to our taxpayers, and it's a significant additional responsibility for our staff. And so as we move forward, one of my top priorities is going to be ensuring that we can kind of transition into a digital world completely. Because right now we're sort of at that apex where we're doing both, and it's costing a lot more money, and it's costing a lot more staff time. So that's a significant priority for us. Elections, not a whole lot happened in 2024, so we'll just kind of move on from there. That was a joke, but turnout numbers by election, as you can see, the presidential preference primary and the May election, special election that happened in May. These are relatively stable numbers for those events. 26% turnout in February, 20% in May. Sorry, Regina, I don't know why my clicker is sometimes not working here. August, and then obviously our November 4 general election with a 75% turnout. It was a big year for us and our elections team. About 80%, excuse me, not 80%, about 40% of all ballots cast in the November general election were absentee ballots. But for every other election, we're now over the 50% mark for absentees, and that consistently holds true in these smaller elections where we're seeing the turnout by mail essentially eclipsing the turnout in the precinct. Because it was such a significant year, we really saw the need to ensure that we were meeting the demand in terms of what the public wanted, engagement and transparency, and making sure that we were out in the community. We held a series of town hall events, were sort of like an Ask Me Anything town hall. And those were so good and so well attended by the community, but also just a lot of good back and forth engagement. And again, our team just does a phenomenal job in working to ensure that we are transparent and answering the questions that people have with regard to their elections. It's so critical. We did a lot of voter engagement, a lot of education activities. We were out in the communities. It represented a really great year to talk to kids in the schools about our elections. This is something I'm particularly passionate about because I think it starts young. We need to start engaging people young in the process and what voting looks like and how they can be involved. And so that's one of our favorite things to do in the community as well. On the social media side, we had a lot of successes, a lot of growth in social media engagement, but one of the highlights was winning a national clearinghouse award through the EAC. This is the second time that we won an award, and this one was for distinguished voter education and communication initiatives. And really, again, our partners here at the county, we couldn't do what we do without them. And so Scott in communications just does a fantastic job. And he sat down with myself and Katie Bard, our elections director, and we did this back and forth banter. If you don't have anything to do tonight, you should go watch them all. It's a great Christmas activity, I'm sure. But it was a lot of fun, and we were recognized, one of 20 organizations in the country recognized by the EAC.
Justin, didn't you banter with yourself in one of those videos?
I mean, that was again, we're talking 2024.
Go back farther. Yeah, you're right.
Talk about that.
You might have put the glasses back on.
Exactly. Early voting, and I won't spend a whole lot of time on this because I know we've had these discussions, and I've kept the board informed of our decision for early voting moving forward. But we are just, again, really incredibly proud of our team and our partners here at the county. As you can see in those breakdowns, it's just phenomenal, the increase in numbers that we had from February to November. And I can tell you one thing, that first day of early voting, that first Saturday in November, where we realized that we had planned for double. It didn't quite work out. And so we drastically changed that plan during the process. The second day of early voting, we had already onboarded more staff and, opened up more room at the sites and brought in more equipment. Just an incredible feat. But again, what was cool for me was just seeing so many voters positive about the process. We had lines, significant lines that actually, in my mind, one of the main reasons why we felt we couldn't do this well moving forward was because we were ultimately slowing down the process of having more people participate, and we don't want to do that. But I'll tell you one thing, people were positive, and it was really a cool experience to engage with people who were in those lines and excited about participating in the 2024 election.
Can I ask you a quick question on that?
Yeah.
So what percentage of the overall number of votes does that represent, especially in the November one?
In November, I don't have the exact percent. It's really low for February and for August, but in November it's 13% of our total voter population, which is good. But again, one of the reasons why we saw fit to go a different route was Allegan County, for example, was 24% of their voters participated early voting. In counties where municipal governments opened up those locations and we had more options for people to go, we just saw a higher percentage of turnout. So a couple of 2025 goals that I'm happy to say, well, I will say when I give my 2025 annual report, have been accomplished. But our election results website, which a couple of you may remember in August of 2024, we had a lot of interest on the website, which resulted in a website crash. And we really wanted to address that head on and say, hey, how can we improve the overall experience of the election results website? And we have partnered with a great vendor, really love the usability, the clarity of the reports. There's more reports available. It's a little bit more just user-friendly and easy to use. And so that process has been a really good improvement. Property fraud alerts, we continue to see a rise in property fraud, not just nationally, but here in Ottawa County as well. Rachel and I were having a conversation earlier this week that involves the sheriff's office and property fraud. And so one of the important things that we are trying to address is making sure people know you can sign up completely free of charge and get notified anytime anyone records a document in our office that has your name attached to it. So we had a 166% increase in the number of people signed up for property fraud alerts, and we just kind of want to continue pushing that narrative and making sure that our community is aware of the challenges that we're facing. Also want to address it on the legislative level too, because I think there's some key things that we can fix, including anytime you're recording a document that transfers ownership of property, we need to be asking for people's ID, and we cannot do that in the state of Michigan. It's kind of a fundamental thing, similar to voting, right? Transferring property, it's a big deal. And we would significantly cut down on instances of fraud in the state of Michigan if we were implementing that. And so that's something that I'm advocating for at the state level. Strengthening our workforce retention. This was a huge push for us in 2025. And throughout this year, we've worked with the Department of Strategic Impact on this, particularly in our circuit court records office. We've seen really beginning in 2021, a much higher rate of turnover than we had previously seen. And, we did a deep dive into workflows and our training processes, and we want to be out in front of making sure that we are serving our team to the best of our ability. And so that analysis did lead to a lot of process improvements for us. One key factor here, as is borne out in our exit interview surveys, is that a lot of these positions are frontline positions in the county, and they are leaving for higher pay. And so that's something that we just continue to advocate for our team on as well. Team development, this core values are really central to how we as an organization focus on our mission. And so again, great partnership with HR as we have gone through the crucial influence model to really identify what we call vital behaviors. So looking at a value of humility or accountability or valuing people, excellent customer service. We want to really break that down and make sure that somebody who starts in our office on day one kind of understands, what does that mean? It's easy to say something as a kind of a platitude, but we want to make sure that our team is really identifying, like, how do we actually behave and how do we live out these values? And so that was really a core focus for us, and an ongoing and continuing goal that you'll hear about in 2025 as well. I think that's all I had. So I don't know how well I did. I did not do as well as I wanted to do.
Justin, thank you.
Absolutely.
I have a few things, but I want to start off with the one that kind of upsets me the most. Not your fault. It's not having the ability to ask for IDs. And you mentioned significant property fraud has taken place, and we would cut down that fraud if we were able to ask for ID to verify these people when they make a request. What is the liability on us if we were to say, you know what, this is what we're going to do. This is how we fight crime in Ottawa County. We're going to ask for ID. Is somebody coming to sue us for doing that? Why can't we implement at least here at the local level to say, we're going to check your ID because we're having fraud in this space?
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. I think ultimately we would likely encounter a number of challenges with that, particularly because we have an 80% rate of electronic recording. And these electronic recording of documents is done through verified partners. So they're done through our title companies or real estate attorneys, people who we have partnerships with, relationships with. They sign a contract with us saying they're going to adhere to these security standards. We would be looking at asking, national firms to change policy based on one county, and it would be a really difficult sell, I think, for them. And the reality is, some of my colleagues are not supportive of this because of the level of work that it would require, additional work for offices where, there are a lot of over-the-counter transactions where we're asking for this. But ultimately, for me, it's not about that. It's about protecting our residents. And so I think the most effective way we can do this is through the legislature, because we're dependent on so many other outside entities when it comes to this. We've got 31,000 documents a year recorded. 80% of those are coming in by outside entities electronically, which is a super secure environment. I mean, we can digitally trace. In fact, that's how we've identified certain things as well, because we can digitally trace a footprint electronically so much better than we could if somebody mailed us a document. But yeah, no, I share that frustration, and maybe
you got to show your ID to get a 6-pack of beer. I mean, it just seems like common sense that we would make sure.
You're talking about somebody's most valuable asset, the thing that they are going to leave to their kids, the thing they work their entire lives for.
But I'm not sure if that would even solve the problem. I mean, I recorded hundreds of deeds electronically.
Yeah.
It's easy to prepare a deed, put it in the register, and now it's on your record, and you don't know about it for 30 years or 10 years until you sell your property.
Absolutely.
Now it's up to you then to go to court to clear the title, right? So even if the clerk had the ID, doesn't mean that somebody still couldn't record something that they shouldn't.
Yeah.
But I think your idea that I didn't know you had, that you can set up a system where you get notified if somebody's putting something on the record for you. That's a big deal. And I didn't know you could do that. So I don't know if the ID is so much the answer, because you're still going to have people committing fraud even with that system. But to notify you.
All the tools that you can, right?
Good.
And I think that makes sense. The other thing that I'm passionate about is not making it a burden on the victim essentially to go to court and clear their title, their chain of
How do you
title,
do that,
right?
though, Justin? That's gonna be, that's a.
Yeah, I mean, we're dealing with 400 years of property law that basically has not changed, and we're looking at like, you know,
So
Norman England.
the second part of my question for you is, you've had to deal with the voting reforms, Prop 2, it all came in, and that caused a lot of extra work for your department.
Yeah.
Expanded early voting, absentee voting. You're handling more registrations and ballots than ever before, more periods of voting. There's just a lot of processing that your department is having to deal with. And then put that on top of it being in a pressure cooker environment where there's sometimes harassment and other things going on against your staff. Do you, as the clerk, feel that your staff is being supported? A, do you have enough people? And B, are we providing them a safe work environment when it comes to these? I know we've had
Yeah.
incidents in the parking lot, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Can we do better? Because we're going into a strategic planning session here in March, and
For sure.
is there some, talking points that we should consider adding?
Well, I really appreciate that. And I know the staff really appreciates that too. I will say, and this is a good reminder for me because we have felt incredible support from this board with our elections division over the past number of years. I mean, we've come to the board with needs that have been real. We've come to the board with ideas for things that we think we could do to make things better. And over again, our board has been really, really supportive of that. And so we're just really grateful for that because I see a lot of colleagues around the state and around the country that are not getting that same need met. So I think we're doing well. I mean, it's been a really challenging couple of years in that environment. But I'm really proud of our team, and we're also really thankful to resources our sheriff's office because we have had additional security requirements, and we've had threats, and we've had I think for me it's hardest on the team. Like in some ways, when you get elected, you sign up for certain things, but our staff that we hire to do a job doesn't deserve some of that treatment. And so it's been a challenging time, but we're just really grateful for you guys and for the support that you've given to us.
Just a couple things, Justin. Thanks for
Yeah.
your presentation. Back to the property fraud alert system. Have you done a recent video at all on that? Is there anything recent that we can direct people to share, or do you have any helpful handout or something that you could guide people to best how to sign up for that if they desire to do so?
For sure. Yeah, we definitely have handouts. I got to get with Scott, I guess, about a video for that. I don't know if we've done a video on that one. TV13 just recently reached out to us and did a little clip. I can definitely send that out to you that specifically kind of focused on property fraud alerts. But we have pamphlets that we give out every time the Registry of Deeds office does a mailing. We've done public events. Rachel's done a number of events. I've accompanied her as well this year. So yeah, we've got some resources that I'd be happy to pass on.
Great. Just thought maybe when we're also talking to our local municipalities, that might be a good talking point to be able to put in there. So little note to Shannon there. One other thing I just wanted to quickly tap on is your honor rewards program, which is kind of a really neat addition that you add to your clerk's department. That rewards program got brought up during the Coopersville Veterans Day event by a couple of veterans, and they wanted to better understand to better know which businesses are actually participating. So a lot of the veterans, maybe I shouldn't say a lot, I don't have a percentage.
Yeah.
Some veterans do not have access, for example, to online to be able to, and I'm guessing maybe you do have something like that to go to that provides a list of all of it online. I guess where can they find out whether it's online or whether it's in print? How can they find out which businesses participate?
It's definitely online and it's on our main website under the honor rewards link. We've also mailed it to a lot of veterans because I completely agree. It's just difficult when people don't always have access to the internet. And so a lot of times we'll just request, ask someone signing up, hey, do you want this physical hard copy? We'll certainly respond over the mail. We have about 600 veterans signed up in the program that we're, in relatively regular communication with. I mean, this is a population a lot of times that they like that kind of interaction. And Jess on our team does a really great job with just the customer service aspect of that. But if you have any ideas, we're happy to help with that because that is a reality.
I hear it's quite a packet.
It is. It's a lot of stuff. Everything from like buying a car to home construction to dog grooming. It's a very extensive list.
Do you have any idea of how many businesses are currently participating?
There's 370, I think that slide said, but I think there's about almost 400 businesses that participate.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. I don't have any current tips for you, just
Yeah.
provide that information. Had a couple conversations that they were interested in it. They had come to the clerk's office and they were waiting to maybe receive something in the mail, that they just were not online. And so.
Yeah.
anyway, so,
Yeah. No, thanks for that.
yeah.
Any other questions, comments?
So just one more thing. So I looked up the property fraud alert and it looks like it's at propertyfraudalert.com/MI Ottawa.
Yes. Yep. So there's a number of links on our website, but that is a free service that's offered by our vendor who essentially, they do this for a number of their counties that they serve. But yes, it is we have a URL that directs people directly there. And I think it's miottawa.org
Okay.
/property. I should know that, property fraud alert. I think that's too long. I don't know if you know, Rachel. But we'll get that to you as well as a part of some information that we can send around for that.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for your.
Thank
report.
you, guys.
Thank you for your staff and what good work you do, Justin. We appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys as well. Thank you.
Very good. Next up, we have the West Michigan Enforcement Team. We met Andrew Foster. Welcome.
Actually, I am the new and improved Andrew Foster. He is out.
Okay. He is improved. Okay, I'll make, yeah.
New and improved, yeah. My name is Mark Shore. I'm actually the detective lieutenant with Michigan State Police that is current team leader for the Ottawa West Michigan Enforcement Team. So I will get through the 300-page annual report as quick as I can. I think, is this my? Yes, please. Okay. So for those who aren't extremely familiar with the West Michigan Enforcement Team, we encompass two counties, Muskegon and Ottawa both. We have a Muskegon team, we have an Ottawa team. Obviously today I'll focus on the Ottawa side of what we do. Our team is composed of officers from the Holland Police Department, deputies from the Ottawa County Sheriff's Department, also troopers from the Michigan State Police. And just to go through a few of these, just a few highlights in our reports. I do have some pictures at the end too, which everybody likes pictures. We have about 10 total detectives right now. I anticipate we'll have a couple more here before too long. Right here, as you can see, 2024 investigations initiated by county. Ottawa wasn't that far beneath Muskegon. We were very close. The 5-year complaint comparison down below that, we are a bit lower on the 5-year complaint comparison, only because of what I would consider to be new detectives to the team, as well as longer investigations. Sometimes the longer investigations take they'll take months to, a year, and even longer than that. So that's where you see those decreases in numbers. Let's get to, so these numbers here, a couple to focus on here. These are our numbers by township and city. And as you'll see with these numbers, the majority of our complaints, the majority of our business is in the city of Holland as well as Holland Township. 47 originated complaints in the city of Holland, 11 in Holland Township, and then we've got a few others that are kind of spread out across the county. You'll see some out-county numbers here. The out-county numbers, we work with various task force partners in Kent County, Muskegon County, and also DEA and ATF task forces. So some of the out-of-county numbers are, there is a nexus with Grand Rapids and Muskegon that do flow into Ottawa County. So a lot of the out-of-county investigations do have a nexus here in Ottawa, that, maybe will go to the federal side too if we decide to go that route. So that's why you see that number there down on the bottom for the out-of-county. Arrests by county, as you can see, again, Ottawa is not much further below Muskegon. We've had quite a few very good arrests. And again, the 5-year arrest comparison, again, the number is lower. And again, new detectives, longer investigations will lead to that lower number. This is one to really focus on as far as what we're seeing in Ottawa County. And this also is for Muskegon County as well. Fentanyl, as you can see, we've seized 2,246.3 grams of fentanyl. That will kill the city of Grand Rapids, just to give you an idea. Cocaine and crystal methamphetamine are the other two major drugs that we are seeing. Methamphetamine pills, we will see those, but those are a little bit harder to find. Mostly crystal methamphetamine is what we're seeing. Heroin's gone down, crack cocaine's gone down. Prescription pills sometimes is difficult. We might find somebody with a pill here or there in a vehicle or in a house, but sometimes difficult to find. And then of course, ecstasy, LSD, and some of the other low, I guess lower seen drugs in this area. If anybody had a question about marijuana, I'll give you the info on that. We don't do anything with marijuana. Our team does not. We do have a team with the Michigan State Police that deals specifically with marijuana, black market marijuana, where people grow it in their homes, maybe in a barn or a trailer. And then they also deal with the regulations of it with the businesses that are legally selling marijuana. So.
With that much fentanyl, is that just passing through here when you pick it up, or where is that mostly coming from?
Passing through, and we will see it. We'll see it in cocaine. We'll see it in methamphetamine mixed in. We'll also see it mixed in with pills. But we do see straight fentanyl, in various forms, powder, kind of a chunky form. But it is passing through in a pure form. So.
Is this what was seized in Ottawa County, or is this?
This is seized in Ottawa County.
This is just our county, okay.
Mhm. Yep. For the 2024 expenditures, obviously we have to spend money to buy drugs. So we have spent 16,000, a little over 16,000 to purchase what we call evidence drugs. And we've also paid out about $6,000 worth of informant pay. So a lot of people, if they're not working off charges, they will come to us and they will help us. And what's their incentive to help us? Sometimes there are people very low income that they want to help. And so we kind of give them a little bit of an incentive to help us out, whether it's something simple, gas money, food money, whatever they can get. So on the bottom here, search warrants executed. We've executed 32 search warrants, 2024. which is a kind of an average number, a couple of months, sometimes more months than others. I don't want to say that the summer months are more busy than the winter months. It's just kind of a steady flow throughout the year. Getting into some of the photos, this was a case that originated down in Allegan, but was coming up to Ottawa. This is a kilo of cocaine. As you can see how it's packaged. This next photo is that package with a stamp on it. The stamp says mobile, like the gas station. Typically, when we see these stamps, these are cartel-related kilos. So these are coming up directly from Mexico when we typically see these types of stamps in the way that they're packaged. So this was inbound to Ottawa County. Here's some more crystal methamphetamine. Pretty typical to see it in these amounts and these sizes being sold to our undercover detectives and also to our confidential informants. Here's another photo of what we see on a regular basis. And kind of give you an idea of the size of some of the packaging that we get. So, and then here is the fentanyl that we're seeing. Typically, it's a really dark color, smaller amounts. People that sell it will sell it in smaller amounts, and they'll even be so gracious to tell us to be careful with it because it's extremely potent. But this here would be a true pure piece of fentanyl, not mixed with anything. So that's kind of what you look at when you see it. And then of course, guns. Wherever there's drugs, there's typically guns. We get a lot of pistols, a lot of long guns, rifle style guns, shotguns. Not all illegal. Some of the people that do engage in the drug market do have legal firearms registered to them. And once they get caught with illegal drugs and selling them, we kind of take care of the firearm part. That kind of works itself out on its own. So, but we do seize them, and then obviously they go for destruction at some point. So that's kind of all I had. Very basic information. If you guys have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer whatever you have.
Patrick, when I was in Wyoming, our drug enforcement team talked about the primary point of entry, at least in Kent County, was the Ford Airport.
Mm-hmm.
And we had talked about, ramping up with dogs and things of that nature. Is that true here? Is that the point of entry via Kent County coming in throughout, or are you seeing it coming in throughout? You mentioned Allegan. I didn't know. Chicago.
We do see it. We see it coming up from Chicago, Texas. There is a big nexus with the state of Texas here, but it does come through the airport. We don't have a team there necessarily. It's usually information that we get that will lead us there. But yes, it does come through the airport. There's no doubt about it. How much of it we end up getting, I don't know. It's just a matter of what kind of tips that we have. So, but a lot of it just comes right up 31, 94 through Chicago, up, 31 to 196 and right up into our area. So
You briefly touched on the number of arrests and investigations were down by and large due to longer investigations. Do you want to share any more about that? Because that's a really big number drop in both arrests and investigations from all your prior years since 2020.
Mm-hmm. So to give you kind of a little bit of an idea about this particular case, I want to say this was probably a year long. We're focusing on a very small amount of individuals with a case like this. There's a larger network, but in this particular area, we're only dealing with a couple individuals. So when we're working a case like this and we have 2 or 3 people involved, we want to work it as long as we can to see how much more we can get and try and figure out where the source is. And I think, the source for this is in Texas. And we did end up with some arrests out of this, but, after a year investigation-ish, you end up with 3 arrests. It doesn't seem like a lot, but we really took out some pretty decent sized players that were.
Well,
that were
that's what I
doing
was,
this. So, and
that's what I was looking.
yeah, and that's the hard part. And some of these investigations too, DEA, ATF, we cooperate with a lot of the investigations. So sometimes, depending on the size of the investigation, we will turn it over to them. So, kind of the arrest credit goes to the federal side. And we get a little bit of it, but mostly to them. So,
Okay,
yeah.
great. Thanks.
When you mentioned drugs coming through the airport, what does that mean? On private planes or on commercial planes?
So they come commercial and private both. We will see it come through luggage. We'll see it come through backpacks on planes. You'd be surprised what actually gets through
That is
TSA.
surprising. It's very surprising.
Yeah, we actually had a case that came out of Chicago. It's still in federal court now, but a pill case that came out of Chicago where somebody flew from California to O'Hare and had a jug of pills that they carried on board that were all illegal pills laced with methamphetamine. So, but they were able to get them on board somehow. So luggage, onboard carry-ons. I don't know that we see a whole lot of private planes necessarily up here, but you'll see it at smaller airports throughout the country where they will fly these smaller planes in, kind of under the radar. No pun intended, under the radar, but where there's a pickup and then they just drive it the rest of the way. So it's pretty. When you see some of the ways that they're getting it in here, it's pretty amazing to see. It's pretty eye-opening, even for us.
Some of the bigger amounts that you've seen, do you think the intended destination was Ottawa, or were they going through Ottawa?
I believe,
Generally speaking.
yeah, generally speaking, I think part of the intended destination is definitely Ottawa. Will that go up to Muskegon? It depends on who's distributing it. So it'll come to somebody, and then it'll kind of get parted out. We do see a lot of it in Ottawa, unfortunately. But yes, is it going to Grand Rapids? Is it going to Muskegon? Yeah, it absolutely is. So
When you mentioned the fentanyl, that much would kill that many people, that's gotta be some just bypass, right? Or is that gonna be distributed here? How would they do that with that much?
it is, so they're able to get it here. So the fentanyl, a lot of that fentanyl is coming from China through Mexico up into the States, and then finding it up into our area. A lot of it's mixed. So very rarely do you see the pure, like you saw up there on that photo. Very rarely do you see the pure form of it. Usually it's mixed, which is where you kind of get those overdose cases. People taking pills, maybe it's methamphetamine, maybe it's cocaine, that's mixed with fentanyl. You can have one person take it, the other person take it, one dies, one doesn't. And that's because the mixture isn't 100%. It's like throwing something in a blender. You're not going to get 100% coverage, throughout the whole mixture. So, do we see a lot of the pure fentanyl? We've seen more of it lately, but more so than we have in the past. So, and currently we're seeing it.
Any other questions? Well, thank you for your report and thank you for what you do for our community and protect our people and
Yeah.
keep us safe. And I know it's not a really safe job that you do. I know there's a lot of danger involved. I appreciate that.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thanks,
Absolutely.
All right, we go on to discussion items. Housing Commission expansion. You want to take that off, Doug?
No,
Go
I'll
ahead.
start out. Josh will be here in a second, but you have 3 documents in your packet. One is kind of a draft summary of what the bylaws and rules, or the recommended bylaws and rules say. And then there's a resolution attached that hopefully we can get to yet today. Basically, 2019, we started the Housing Commission. We were looking at that time to get HUD certification, which meant that we had to follow statutory rules. We were never able to get HUD certification. The board has kind of operated as an advisory board as it is. And the idea is, if we're going to operate an advisory board, let's take advantage of, all the tools that we have. Josh and I have talked about this, and, maybe expanding membership from the 5 to a number that kind of represents, what at least I think makes sense, models the groundwater board. Proposal summary, expansion of the Housing Commission from 5 members to 19 members, adjusting the term length from 5-year terms to 3-year terms, staggered that rotation. I think both of those 2 things will enhance the representation both across geography, demographics, as well as key housing sectors like finance and builders, et cetera, right? And, nonprofit builders as well. Designed to strengthen representation. One thing we've talked about in the Housing Commission is adding more expertise, whether it's finance, banking, mortgage, builders, nonprofit builders, advocacy groups, and just making sure that we have a board with the tools to really address the problems of housing here in Ottawa County, right? So, I don't know if you want to pick up the rationale for reform, kind of broader representation, and hit those.
Yeah, sure. I think that, Doug did a great job here. The impetus for me was a conversation I had earlier this year. Impetus for me with a desire to expand the Housing Commission is from a conversation earlier this year, which is, boy, that board is awfully small. Why do we only have 5 members on it? And the more that I dug into it, looking at the bylaws and the state statute enabling act, we're limited to 5 members. That is all we are permitted to have. And so then came the question, what is the advantage to operating a housing commission under the enabling act from the state of Michigan? And that advantage is that we could do things like Section 8 housing vouchers, work with MISHDA to do loans, things of that nature. None of these we do at present, nor do I believe, at least from the conversations I've had with Doug and the Housing Commission, do we have interest in doing so. We have other community partners like the Salvation Army, different church organizations, different nonprofits that advocate and take care of things like that for us. And I don't have any interest in bringing those in-house with the county. I want to shrink what we do at the county. If we're not going to take on those roles and responsibilities, then how can we do a better job? Or are there ways that we can do a better job to utilize a housing commission format to really try to crack a little bit more of the nut of the housing challenges in Ottawa County? And in conversation with Doug and others, it seemed very obvious to me that we need to increase the number of stakeholders that are participating in that board, that it is so limited right now that it can't do a whole lot. Doug and I have had conversations on whether 19 is the right number or not. For me, I feel like that's moving from a board to like a whole lumber yard, to use an example from my construction days. So maybe a tweak to the bylaws that incorporate an executive committee that's perhaps a little bit more nimble, but not giving them too much authority that it excludes the other members. But that might be one of the possibilities. So what you have before you is the great draft that largely Doug drew up of the bylaws, taking the groundwater board, replacing groundwater board with housing commission as a template for us to start from. I think it needs a little bit more tweaking before we're ready to actually take a vote on it. And I'd love to run this by corporate counsel at some point. But I think at this point, we've both felt that this was at a point where we ought to at least bring it to you guys, get some feedback, let us know if you think we're heading in the right direction, or, hey, you know what, we don't even want to do this, let's pull the plug. Because we're at a point where we need to incorporate a little bit more staff time, sit down with Paul Sachs, sit down with legal, sit down with Patrick to really look at, do these bylaws do what we want them to do? And are we ready to move forward? Because timing wise, there's not an urgent rush, but if we don't do something, we're going to do nothing. And more of nothing hasn't really helped us address the housing concerns that we have in Ottawa County. So that's a 30,000-foot view. And go ahead, Doug.
Yeah, just about the timing issue. And I see that, we may have different ideas about, membership, et cetera. But, one of the things we talked about in housing Commission last month was strategic planning, right? And whether we want to do that before the board does theirs or after, right? And do we want the Housing Commission strategic plan to inform some of our board decisions or vice versa? And I think what we came up with, so we like to do that before, so which means like February. The thought was to bring in stakeholders, folks who are attending our meetings, who are, aware of what we're doing, want to be part of what we're doing. So there'd be already, a natural group of stakeholders already at the table through that strategic planning process that they can either be folded in as commissioners themselves if they wish, or to participate just as members at large, right? And I think it's a good model for what we do in Ottawa County. I think one of the things we do in Ottawa County really well is, work as teams, and have that collegiality where you can have builders, you can have lenders, you can have advocacy groups, all work together to solve a problem, right? We're seeing that in Holland with the Project Home. And I think this is, just another way that, we can demonstrate our willingness and our ability to solve a big problem, right? So,
And our commitment to doing so. Absolutely.
so
Can I?
Yeah,
jump
you
in?
got,
Yeah.
questions, got it. Yeah.
So, for context, I don't sit on the Housing Commission, and I've participated in the audience a couple different times to get a better idea of what you guys do. I know that it's been around for a number of years now, and just help me understand the problem a little bit better. The Housing Commission's been around for many years. It feels like they come together and discuss the need for more housing and access to housing and affordable housing and housing options. But if you could tell me a little bit about what are some of the, I'll call them signature milestone achievements that have come out of the Housing Commission since it's been formed.
Sure.
To help me, because I always think let's try to, name the problem that we're trying to solve so that if we do expand the board, we're recruiting people to do more of what we want and less of what we don't
right,
want.
right. No, I think
Versus just meeting to say, yeah, we got a problem and we're showing our commitment to talk about it every single month.
right.
Before you go, Doug, I just want this brings up a great question because I asked Doug, I said, what has the Housing Commission actually done? And he pointed out some great things that they have done. So it's not to what do I say, downplay what they have accomplished. They have accomplished a number of things, but could they do much more? So sorry, go ahead, Doug.
Yeah, so I think the number one thing we've done is the housing fund, right? And I think that,
That's the 10 million?
that's the 10 million with IFF, and IFF came to our meeting a week ago. So we have about, what, 8.5 million placed, Paul, with IFF already. It's a revolving loan fund, so we'll start seeing some of that back. 550 units, I've, in part, been generated as a result of that housing fund. I think, when we had the ARPA dollars and the Housing Commission working together, I think we developed a really strong proposal. The initial proposal was for 8 million. And, together with a few stakeholders, we got that up to 10 million, and Phil was part of that. And, I think that's been a super strong tool here in Ottawa County, whereby, we're taking our 10 million, we're leveraging it with 30 million of their money, $40 million at below market rate financing, to generate, workforce housing, disability housing, and everything in between, right?
So
Senior housing.
if we brought more people onto this board, would it help us bring in more money to increase that from 10 to
I don't,
15 million?
yeah,
or-
and that may be a goal, is to, work to increase the size of the housing fund, right? Or, so one of the things that, we didn't directly have anything to do with this on the Housing Commission, but the contribution to Habitat for Humanity, right, and to Jubilee, those are connections that have been strong. They continue to show up. I personally would just like to continue doing that work because they fill niches in the community. We have the Magnus Project at Waverly and 24th Street. What is that? 400 units, something like that. It's a big, big project. What Jubilee and
Did Jubilee come out of the Housing Commission? Is
not
that-
necessarily, no, but they've been strong stakeholders in it, right?
Yeah, I just toured all of their brand
You know,
new facility
so-
homes, and it's
And I
impressive,
think
and
the
it's
idea that
ramping up.
we're working
in a different
together
way.
with folks like that, so recently what the Housing Commission's been doing is of the small homes footprint, right? And we have a project at 8th and Waverly. Is it 8 units total, Paul? The 8th and Waverly project. And that's a small homes concept project, and I think it's, obviously it's going to help people find homes, but it's also a demonstration project of what the small homes footprints can look like. And they've been working on that before I came back on, and that's been a really cool, thing to see, right?
It is, and if I may, I think that's one of the most pragmatic opportunities to address the housing challenge. The revolving loan fund, yes, there's been good investments and products getting on the into the market, but it's been mainly rentals. We need for sale units, and in Ottawa County, you cannot build an 850 square foot house on a 5,000 square foot lot. That's what the planning or the housing commission is working on. So through demonstrations and showing what this product type can be, and then it's engaging with local units of government. They need to be at the table more. That is one of the biggest barriers to our housing problem. You can put money into it and we can subsidize, but we've got to have local opportunities. Our local zoning ordinances are very restrictive from whether or not you can get ADUs, smaller lots, just opening up, making streamlining opportunities for developers, doing by right ability to build for sale units without going through a PUD process. Very cumbersome. So our demonstration project in Holland, Holland City, great collaborative partners, right? They're really encouraging affordable housing units in that community, but we're experiencing challenges going through that bureaucratic process, which adds a ton of cost to a project. So we're doing a case study in that way to learn how we can work with locals even stronger.
The number that I'm hearing is that we have about a 4,000 home deficit in Ottawa County alone. Is that what you're hearing as well?
For the for sale units, overall, it might be about 12,000 rental and for sale. With for sale units, though that product type at 350,000 or more, that's on track. That is being built with just market. That space that needs some challenges, that below 80% AMI, that home that's under 300,000.
2-bedroom, $200,000 house.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so
That's what
we've designed and have created styles of a home that hit that price point. And now we need to encourage it and get it in the marketplace. People are scared of a small home. They think a small home means that someone's coming in with Section 8 housing. We're talking about young professionals graduating college, making $70,000 a year. They can't build a home. And so we're contacted routinely by prospective home buyers and aging seniors. Say, where can I have one of these homes? I want to downsize. I want a starter home. And I've said to this board before, my first house was in Holland Township. It was 900 square foot. That looks like our communities. When we drive around in every community in Ottawa County, you see that product type. We're not building it. We need to encourage.
Allison, I know you've got something. Let me just throw one out here for Paul, just to piggyback on that. And as Jacob just said, my first house in the city of Grand Haven, my wife and I, it was 820 square foot house. And it was right in downtown Grand Haven. And it was perfect for us. And in today's dollars, I bet that would have sold for maybe around 200,000, or today it would be. For us, it was $80,000 house, but it was a great starter home. And it was built in such a way that we could add on to the back of it to expand if we wanted to. But I think that the bigger picture that you bring up and you mention is the importance of getting local stakeholders plugged in. And that's where the expansion of this board has, more opportunity to do that. Because what we're lacking in a large part is kind of the cross-pollination between the different stakeholders in the county, because we have such a small group of people. And I would even say that comes down to cross-pollination within the county itself, We only recently, just at our last appointment and alignment committee, and this board voted for it, we appointed somebody from the Brownfield BRA authority onto the Housing Commission. And that hadn't been there before. And there's so many tools in the Brownfield toolkit that can help address housing affordability that we haven't been able to take advantage of. So enlarging that board helps. Sorry, Allison, go for it.
No,
Yeah.
you're good. I just want to first thank Doug and Josh for the discussion because it is one of the most important parts that our county's facing. So thank you for the work that both of you have already started. I guess for sake of time and just some efforts, and because I think this conversation, I think that we deserve to be able to spend more time on this than perhaps today allows. I'm wondering what you guys think about potentially scheduling a work group day specifically just on this topic prior to our strategic plan, as I think mentioned by Commissioner Zylstra, in having that before we have our March time, and potentially continuing to have this on as discussion item at planning and policy. I think there's a lot of things that I would like to see fleshed out before we're to the point of talking about some of the things that you brought forward. I would love to have Paul come in with a little bit more time under his, before it comes into a packet, like on a Friday or whatever. I want him to have time to present to us a little bit more in depth things that are happening, inviting the Housing Commission members if they have things they would like to add to bring forward to the board. I appreciate what you've shared so far. Commissioner Zylstra was sitting on there. I think some of the questions that I have, and I think Jacob tapped onto as well, is just understanding, what is happening in our county, our demographics, how big is the problem, who is potentially leaving our county and we're not able to serve. Is it our young people? Because I've been told we're losing a large percentage of our young people, which then we lose our workforce. We lose volunteers that serve our county in helping those who are disabled or are elderly. We lose our kids being able to care for us as we age. There is definitely some things that I think we need to flesh out, like who is our target as well. And then if we have a targeted population that we're trying to retain here, that might also, I bring this up because it might delve into a little bit more of the understanding of Housing Commission and how many members do we need and who needs to be at the table. And I think we need to have that bigger conversation prior to any huge change. At least that's from my perspective.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I like that idea. I don't know if we need a work session. I think we can see what we put together in the next plan and policy with discussion in the next month. If it looks like we can't, develop enough there, then we could go into a work session if that would work.
Sure, I just think about timing, and often we schedule our next meeting, and
We want all your time at a planning and policy meeting. So Phil, if you can do that and set
Don't get
aside
all my time.
all for housing, we'll be good. I think you bring up some very good points, Allison. And what might work with what you've suggested in mind, let me do two things. One, I think there's more work that needs to be done to present this so that we can vote on it. I think some of the questions that you posed will probably be answered by that committee after it exists. But we still need to flesh out that committee a little bit more so that we can know what questions we can answer. And you bring up a very good one right there. I wonder if maybe Doug and I and Patrick and Paul, and maybe to bring in the Housing Commission, as you've been maybe a member of the Housing Commission, five or six of us, whatever that is, sat down, went through this, and then prepared a presentation for then maybe either a work session or the next planning and policy meeting. We don't want to, I don't want to draw the process out too far, but I understand there are more questions, so.
I would encourage you too to reach out to Jubilee with Paul's help because they've learned a lot over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And they see the trends because they're on the front line, right? They're seeing what's going on and they're building homes in Ottawa County, in downtown Holland for 160,000, 2 bedrooms, bathrooms, the whole bit, enclosed garage, $160,000. Right? And they have a waiting list and they're targeting first responders and teachers. But, that's a great start. But, when you get 8 homes here and 10 homes there, that's nice, but when we're talking about needing thousands, we need to figure, this is
Oh,
a
yeah,
bigger.
we need that in Georgetown. We need that up in Northwest Ottawa County, yeah.
Yeah, and I was able to connect with 3 of the Housing Commission members yesterday, understanding that I'd see Doug today. And I do think that they would like to have a longer conversation before we talk about it. I think they have ideas that I think I would love for you guys to hear their thoughts. I heard a lot of thoughts. I took a lot of notes. I'm gonna save you for now. But I think there were some really neat things to maybe think through.
Good.
So let me, if I can add a few things. So my mind is going to the structure of this. I totally agree that I think this is a good initial conversation. But even the term housing commission suggests something more statutorily mandated than it is, right? You refer to the term committee, right? That's a totally different concept than a commission. Commission seems to have this legal authority concept, which I think we've misunderstood in Ottawa County, as I'm understanding, having talked to Doug. So I think, and then you use the term, Doug, advisory, right? This committee will be advisory, I guess. I don't know exactly what that means, but again, moving away from what is statutorily allowed versus what we want it to accomplish, maybe totally different conversations, right? So in some ways, when you guys go back to your commission as it exists, you almost have to look at it from a clean slate. If we were going to address a housing issue in Ottawa County, how would we do this, right? What form should it take? Should we rename it something other than a commission, right? So we don't avoid confusion. To me, it's the purpose, you can get to the purpose clearly. But how you set it up now is going to be fundamental in how you move forward in finding a fix or a solution or something. For me, that's where I'm at. And so that's why these initial discussions are good, but we're far from figuring out what we want to do.
I have a couple thoughts if I can share.
I'm taking notes.
Okay, great. So in general, I'm very supportive of this idea. I think it's super important for our young professionals. There's definitely a gap there for them. When we went to DC with a state leadership conference, Secretary Scott Turner was there to talk about housing. He's with HUD. And he talked about opportunity zones expanding to rural areas. And so I have to confess, I don't know enough about that yet. But one thing that gives me pause about completely disassembling the Housing Commission, as you explain it, is I think that we should take a look at whether there's any potential there with those opportunity zones, because they're trying to make that much broader and more available to more communities. So I just want to make sure we don't lose access to something that could be beneficial. And if that's true, maybe we need 2 things. Maybe we need a housing commission to handle any opportunities that would require it. And then maybe we also need a broader committee. I don't know that that's true. I'm just saying that we should look at it before we would dissolve a housing commission. In general, Secretary Turner recommends that we do have public-private partnerships. So I think it is important that we do have a committee. I agree with that. I'm just saying, I'm not sure we should dissolve the other. So I think it is important to bring in more voices. Another thing that they've done recently is they had a housing showcase at the National Mall. And actually, that was in September. I actually wish we had sent somebody to that, because they had all different kinds of models of housing, specifically for young professionals. So they're definitely looking at this particular demographic. So they had a number of different things like log homes, manufactured homes, which I know a lot of times, people are hesitant about doing that, but they're looking at, increasing the standards. Also recommending that we lower regulations, like Paul was talking about. One thing that did give me some red flags in just looking at documents presented so far is the Michigan State Housing Development Authority was referenced in there. I just have a little bit of pause on that because it definitely seems to be operating through an equity lens. So there's, you know, a definite DEI component to some of their work. However, they are doing some good work. They've actually done an analysis on our area, which is available online, which may be helpful for us, you know, when we get working on this. So some good things, some not so great things to take out of that. So just want to make sure we're not relying 100% on their work since it was referenced in these documents. I would note that, you know, while I don't agree with all of their work, that on the federal level, the issue of housing is seeing some really good bipartisan efforts. So I do think that this is an issue and that this is work that we can really come around together as a board and work on. So I am encouraged by that.
But Patrick, got your direction here. I
Yeah,
think you're hearing kind of what we're thinking and what will be done. down the
Yeah, a
road.
couple of comments. I agree entirely with everything Paul said. I think this issue is a local issue. And we have to have conversations with our partners at the regional level. All of the affordable housing problems can't be handled in the city of Holland and Hudsonville and the other communities that are doing it. So we have to get buy-in from the other communities. Now, that's going to be up to them, but it's important to have them at the table to help them understand the need and that all housing is not subsidized housing, to Paul's point. So one of the most important things we can do is open up new avenues for construction. They've done great work in strategic impact on creating model ordinances and designs that can be used, but thus far that has been kind of a barrier, is getting the locals to adopt those. So I agree completely, having them at the table, and because we really need ambassadors and partners in this field to make it work. How do we remove barriers? We create economic development tools beyond federal subsidies. The land bank changes you made today is one way to do that. If there's a new development that's going to need infrastructure, that's one cost you can remove from the developer that will help make that housing more affordable. So then lastly, I'll just say, I really agree. I know we don't want to delay this, but I really agree with Housing Commission's idea of doing their strategic planning first, because I think that will be critical to really informing this discussion for you. Let them set their goals and priorities, determine what they want to accomplish, and I think that will help drive what changes or what we want to see out of this reorganization of a board, committee, whatever we call it.
How many other counties have the housing commission like we have? What are our comparables? Do we know, or can we find out?
We can find out. I know cities have them. Core communities usually have them. Wyoming had a housing commission. Grand Rapids has one. But you're right. We're not really the voucher mechanism that those operations are. We are more advisory. We're more problem solving, and that's where I see a lot of value in this model.
Okay, good.
And I think you just about wrap it up, which is perfect. I just want to throw one more thing out. When we talk about the topic of housing affordability, the order of the words is actually significant to reducing and removing stigma. If we call it affordable housing, it's one thing. If we call it housing that is affordable, it's an entirely another thing. And what we want to focus on is creating the housing that is affordable. And so the more that we can adopt that phraseology as leaders in our communities, and our communities can do that, I think that will change the conversation a little bit.
Yeah. And sorry, one more thought. I do see you talked about cross-pollination. There's a cross-pollination with the groundwater discussion on this too.
Yeah, there is.
Because if we start talking about introducing density in areas that are on wells, that needs to be brought in, and that's at that strategic level that we want to think about.
Absolutely.
At 4 a.m. when I was tossing and turning, I thought, groundwater board, we need groundwater board representation for that reason. So that's great.
Josh, to your point, Josh, the mission statement of this committee will be important.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Because if it's interpreted now as a commission, a statutory commission, which it's not, then we've got to make sure that whatever this committee does, or whatever you want to call it, aligns with some objectives that you guys will determine and come back to us. So
Just to that point real quick, I mean, I think it was purposely left off a mission statement because I think that that's, something for us to define, right? I mean, I didn't want to define it ahead of time and, neither did Josh.
Mhm.
I mean, I think Josh's point about, we want housing that's affordable is a great one, right? And
Yeah.
that can be incorporated. And I think that obviously having, more opportunities is what we want for our residents, right? But we do want that mission statement to come from us and to come from the commission itself, so.
Very good.
And
Good
I-
discussion. Thank you.
I really appreciate too, Patrick, you bringing up the water piece
Yeah.
because that is critical. Because I have seen housing go up in another state where my son was for a while. And it was just bang, 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 bang. I mean, they were rolling out the houses. There were like probably 20, 30, 40 being built at a time in a neighborhood. But they were so compactly together in an overall rural, space. And so you could totally do something like that here, but the infrastructure wouldn't support it. So, so I think we do have to look at that piece too. And, how do we get funding for infrastructure? We've got to figure that piece out.
Very good. All right. This is a second opportunity for public comment. Is there any public comment at this time? Is there anybody online?